Introduction. Deep pause. December, 1900. The harsh, freezing waters of the Atlantic Ocean, just off the coast of Scotland. Somewhere out there, among the crashing waves and jagged rocks, lies a tiny, uninhabited island called Island Moor. For centuries, local sailors avoided this place. Old fishermen whispered that the island was cursed, inhabited only by ghosts and strange, mythical creatures. No one had ever lived on Island Moor. But as maritime trade grew, the ships wrecking against its deadly cliffs demanded a solution. In 1899, a brand new, state-of-the-art lighthouse was built here. The massive stone tower was meant to be a symbol of safety and man's triumph over wild nature. Its powerful beam of light was designed to save lives, but instead, the lighthouse itself became the stage for one of the most chilling and inexplicable tragedies in history. Part 1. The Keepers. Pause. 3 experienced keepers were stationed on this isolated piece of land: Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. These were not random men or cowardly novices. Each of them had spent half his life at sea. They were used to total isolation, fierce storms, and monotonous hard work. Their shift lasted several weeks. Around them, nothing but the concrete walls of the lighthouse, the cries of seagulls, and the endless ocean beating against the cliffs. There was no connection to the mainland whatsoever, only visual signals using flags in clear weather. At first, everything went as usual. The men faithfully lit the beacon every night, but in mid-December, something changed. The first alarm sounded on the night of December 15th. A passing steamer, the Arcturus, noticed something unbelievable. The great lighthouse of Island Moor was dark. The captain made a note in his log, but due to the oncoming bad weather, he couldn't get any closer. On the mainland, they found out about it with a delay. Because of the severe Christmas storms, the relief ship Hesperus was only able to break through to the island on December 26th. Part 2. The Chilling Discovery. Pause. As the rescue ship approached the shore, the crew was instantly wrapped in a heavy sense of dread. There was no usual flag on the dock. No one had prepared the platform for unloading supplies. And most importantly, no one came out to meet the ship, even though the keepers always looked forward to the relief crew. The captain ordered a deafening blast of the horn and fired a signal flare. The only answer was a dead, frightening silence and the sound of the surf. One of the rescuers, Joseph Moore, volunteered to climb the cliff alone. He approached the massive doors of the lighthouse. They were locked from the inside. Forcing the locks, Moore stepped into the cold building and froze with inexplicable fear. Inside, everything looked as if the keepers had vanished into thin air just a few minutes ago. In the main room, an untouched meal sat on the table. The food had already managed to become covered with a thick layer of mold. On the wall, the clock had ominously stopped ticking. A single kitchen chair lay overturned on the floor, as if someone had abruptly jumped up from the table in a severe panic. But the strangest thing awaited the rescuers in the wardrobe. 2 heavy waterproof oilskins were missing, but the third one, belonging to Donald MacArthur, remained hanging on its peg. Think about it. In the conditions of a freezing Scottish winter, in the middle of a storm, an experienced lighthouse keeper would never, under any circumstances, go outside without his foul weather gear. What could force an adult, disciplined sailor to rush out into a furious night in just his indoor shirt? Part 3. The logbook entries. Pause. Trying to understand what had happened, the rescuers opened the official logbook of the lighthouse, and what they read there turned the mystery into a true nightmare. The last entries were made by Thomas Marshall. On December 12th, he wrote, "Storm. the likes of which I have not seen for the past 20 years. James Ducat is quiet, and old MacArthur is crying. Ponder these words. Donald MacArthur was a veteran of the Navy, a rugged and fearless man known for his iron character. What could scare him to tears inside a fortified stone tower? On December 13th, Marshall leaves an even stranger entry. Storm continued through the night. We are all praying. But here is the main, blood-curdling detail. According to the official reports of all navigation services and meteorologists in Scotland, there was no storm in the area of the island on December 11th, 12th, and 13th. The weather was absolutely calm, quiet, and clear. The nearest gale didn't start until December 16th, when the light on the lighthouse had already gone out. What terrifying fury of the elements was the keeper writing about? What was raging around them if the rest of the world saw only a calm sea? The last final entry in the log was made on December 15th. It consisted of just 4 words that still haunt researchers today. Storm over. All is well. Climax and theories. Pause. They searched for the 3 keepers for weeks. Rescuers combed every inch of the tiny island, looked into every crevice. But the men were nowhere to be found. They had vanished without a trace. The official investigation eventually closed the case with a mundane conclusion. The keepers were swept away by a sudden, giant rogue wave when they went down to the sea to secure a rope damaged by the storm. But this version falls apart at the seams. It doesn't explain why the lighthouse gates were locked from the inside. It doesn't explain the overturned chair, the abandoned oilskin, and most importantly, the bizarre entries in the logbook about a non-existent storm. Over the past 100+ years, people have put forward hundreds of theories. Newspapers wrote about a sudden fit of madness, where one keeper killed the other 2, threw the bodies into the ocean, and then jumped from the cliff himself. Others blamed foreign spies and abduction. Mystery lovers still believed that the men were dragged to the bottom by an ancient sea monster, awakened by the lighthouse beam. Final, slowly, lowering the tone. The truth, however, remained forever out there, on the cold, misty island of Eilean Moor. The lighthouse still operates today, but now it is fully automated, and humans no longer need to spend terrifying nights alone with the ocean. And the old stone tower still silently shines into the darkness, keeping the secret of the 3 keepers, whose souls, perhaps, are still wandering in the cold Atlantic fog.